amazing film, right? Awesome. We have the director right here, Brad Berman. We have Dr. Donnie Moore and Jen, as we all know, and Adala. Welcome. So what did you think when Jack told you he had a plan?
He never really stated it so clearly as, some plan. It was like kind of like I said in the narration that he was sort of concocting it, I think, and it emerged. So I didn't have to think too much about that. We just filmed day by day.
Right? I mean, Jen, was that how, it's kind of how he was, right? I mean, if we want to get to just Jack for a moment here, did you hear about this? He wanted to document a film first, or did he share it with Brad first?
Okay, so can I say, Brad, how this all happened?
Honesty counts.
Okay, so honestly, it started off as a joke.
Oh.
So Angie, Brad's wife, was going through a change of life and deciding what was next for herself. And Jack says, I know, because he likes to help connect people to their next job or whatever. So Jack says, I know, Brad, you need to film Angie. You need to film Angie. She's a great cook. You need to film her cooking. And she's just so amazing on film. And Angie and Brad are like, I don't think that's a good idea to work together. So then Jack says, all right, you should film me. I'm funny. I'm really funny, Brad. Come over and film me. And I was like, oh, what are you guys talking about? This is Thanksgiving. Everyone's drunk. Come on. But the next day, Jack calls Brad and says, when are you coming over? So,
That's how it happened.
And at that point, he did have the brain tumor. At that point, the second brain tumor. But yeah, he just thought it'd be a great time.
It was a good place to start. I mean, did you have a script? If we're gonna just talk movies for a moment, because your voiceovers, wasn't his voiceover just beautiful? It was really moving, and we could feel the closeness and the friendship between you two with those voiceovers.
No script, no set idea for what this would be, whether it would just be some document, some footage that would end up in the basement with everything else, or didn't log footage.
Right.
As we went, we would shoot for a day, and then I'd go home and I'd just cut a little highlight reel of 2 or 3 minutes and put it on YouTube just for friends to see.
Right.
But that was it. And it was only after that, it emerged.
Because I think people should know that, you are an award-winning filmmaker, documentary filmmaker before this. So it was in perfect hands, wasn't it, Jen? It was.
Yeah, it really is. Brad is a beautiful storyteller. I've always said he's just a great interviewer. He's just a good friend, because he does listen and ask great questions. And like I said, even as a friend, but especially in a documentary style filmmaking. He's just perfect at this.
Okay, that's my cue. I get to ask a question, right?
Go for it.
So maybe first for Adalia, right? Is it okay if I ask you a question?
Sure, go ahead. I'll try.
First of all, you were an ICU nurse for how long?
45 years.
45 years. Now, yeah, there you go.
Right.
It's mind-boggling to think about how many people that you help through very difficult situations, and suddenly you see your adopted son going through that, and announcing that he's decided upon the last day of his life. How did that strike you at first? Like, how did you deal with something like that?
At first, when he told me about it, I couldn't accept it. I told him, I cannot let you go. I went through this with all my patients, but with you, I can't. And I cried and cried to change his mind. And he said, my mind is made up, Mom. So.
Yeah. Would you like to explain, Dr. Donnie, the relationship of what goes on in a concept of the hospice and the doctors? Tell us about your practice and what you do. It'd be very interesting to bring you into the conversation.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, yeah, I think one of the things I really loved about this, and it's first of all, what an intensely intimate, emotional depiction of that friendship. Uh, so as an end-of-life physician, I think what I loved about this film is that, while it was about Jack's death, ultimately, like, it was really about his life and all these like snapshots and these depictions, these intimate moments that made him whole and that really like gave him meaning and purpose. And so, the practice that I've been fortunate enough to find empowered endings, what we do so much is, while I meet with people and, ultimately determine eligibility and write the medication and sit with them in their passing, it's a lot of what I do is really sort of tapping into that part of them that really is their life and was their life and is maybe not so much a part of their life so much anymore, but really was, and try to make that what the highlight is. We try to focus on that and in whatever way we can honor that and really, bring that to the forefront.
And usually when you're with a patient, do they know, are they as convinced as Jack if that's what they want to do? Is there a thin line over talking them through? Or
Almost always.
Yeah.
Like virtually every time. And that's probably something I was most surprised by, is that I didn't quite expect people to be so sure and certain and confident and really, like they're like, this is where I'm at, and people are very sure.
Was that part of Jack's journey that we didn't see? He came to that place when he told you that. But I knew last night that this was my last night. Did we not see any of that footage? Of the
No,
last
like
couple years?
he knew. Even though maybe that was like his last double check where he could really finally eradicate any last little speck of doubt. He knew all along, and that was both fascinating but also challenging in terms of storytelling, because you want your main character to go through some changes, and so in a weird way he wasn't the protagonist. I mean, he is, obviously he's the guy carrying us through, and it's his life story, but it was more about everybody else around him, including me. And how we responded and how that evolved, and you would think, I mean, what you're saying, like almost every case, that's so amazing, because you would think that family members and loved ones would be the ones that would need to come to the aid of the person who's terminal and dying. But at least in this story, and you can tell me whether it's true in other cases, it's that person is showing everybody else,
Right. I mean,
helping everybody else accept it.
because do you think that's what's part of the issue with the public, or how we all perceive it, is because do we have that right? I mean, isn't that where you probably get hit up with this film all the time? I mean, what if people aren't in a sound mind? I mean, you even asked them a few times in the film, or, I mean, how does that process work?
Yeah, and I will say that there's work before that, and I think that a lot of palliative care, you saw a palliative care physician, and a lot of that work is sometimes people do when they first hear and they first sort of come to terms with, like, there's this distant sort of vague idea of our mortality, but when it first is there as a real moment, there's some work, I think, to becoming more comfortable with that. But yeah, what you said is absolutely true, that a lot of times it's really the family and the friends and the loved ones who really need the most kind of like support, and really, like you said it perfectly, that they're actually teaching the people around them that this is okay, that this is where I'm at, and that this is
Because
the
even
moment.
even in, yeah, we'll get questions.
For sure.
Even Jack's conflict. I mean, within the friends, you
Right.
know, because it seems like that's how it is. How are you with it, Jen?
If I can say it in this way, compare it, I would tell friends this is his choice. It's like making a choice for women, whether they're going to carry a baby or not. And this is his choice, and this is his right in this moment. And either we are all on the bus with him, or if you're not on it, you're not in the room. You're with him or you're not. I mean, that's just where it was, and that's just kind of what I said to the entire group. I just had to call her about, this is what's happening, this is the date, you are here, it is hard, I know, but this is the deal.
Right. Because
Yeah.
the wife to the caregiver must be a very interesting role that many people go for. And I do have to say, I mean, she was just beautiful every ounce of the way. You were there
Yes.
the whole way. I mean, wow. You're best friends.
Yes, I have the best friends. It's true. I do. I have an amazing family, which I think is what allowed me to know what a good friend is, because I came from good heart, right? But Jack sadly didn't have that. And so for him, his friends were his family. And that's why it was so important, and that's why we were so tight, extra tight with this group of friends, because they were his family until he met Jack Daddy. So, who I'm still in touch with today. So, yeah.
Oh, awesome, right? We were so happy he was his dad, right? I was like, there's no way this is going to happen. I mean, right? Were you just like, come on, this isn't going to happen. I mean, the mother, Lord have mercy,
I
right?
know, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know,
But,
I know.
okay, we have any questions here? I'm sure we do. Angel, here we go.
I've come across this, when the AIDS epidemic was going on, with several friends of mine, and I think one thing that I know that people worry about is how long they'll have free will, and the fear that they'll deteriorate real quickly and lose that free will and not be able to make that decision to end their way in a peaceful way. And I guess he got advice from a psychologist and from a doctor and from everybody else on something like that. And is that a big part of it?
Yeah, I would say that's it. Oddly, that's one of the hardest parts of the job is, and the practice is knowing, sort of knowing that moment and having to sit with somebody who maybe doesn't qualify, who isn't able to still communicate their wishes, and knowing where that moment is and grappling with that with the families. And that does happen, and that's something that I'm, just happy to see that he was supported early enough. That's so important, that early enough that he was given the guidance to prepare and know, to really carry out his wishes before he did reach that point where it was too late.
He did feel like it was not a race, but the timing was important. That one of the reasons I think he wasn't flexible on the date was it's a slippery slope. If you move it once, then why not move it again? And he had to be of sound mind to make and have the autonomy to make the decision. So the only way, or I guess maybe the only way to assure that happened was to set a date certain and stick to it.
Because he's a blaze of glory.
Yeah, he wanted to die in a blaze of glory.
What is the law, Doctor? What is the law as it stands updated right now on assisted end of life?
Yeah, so and it's the End of Life Options Act is the name of the law, and as of now, for what we consider medical aid in dying is the really preferred verbiage. And so as the law stands, there has to be several different criteria. You have to meet at least a 6-month prognosis with your condition, so something that we consider terminal. that might make you hospice eligible, for instance. You have to be at least 18, and you have to be of sound mind, so able to, what we say, have capacity to make medical decisions. You have to understand your condition, understand the implications of taking the medication, and have full capacity to make decisions, and be able to physically take the medication is the other big component. Right now, as it stands, in every state that allows it, there's 10 states, and then in DC, you have to be able to drink the medication or take it rectally through a catheter, and so you have to be able to physically, hold the cup or press the plunger to complete it.
Because people used to go to Oregon. Like, are all the states different? The laws?
To an extent, yeah. There's a pretty
Is California
wide
progressive?
variety,
Oh,
over the time period. In California, it's 48 hours between, you have to make 2 requests. So you have to see a doctor 2 times, and there has to be at least 2 days. In some states, it's 15 days. In Hawaii, it's 20 days. So there's variety in the amount of time you have to wait to do it. There's variety in sort of, who can determine whether you can do it. There's a bit of difference between states.
I think a really big distinction is the difference between the states in the U.S. that has this law and Canada, right? Because in Canada, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not required that you're terminal. So why would they want that?
and who passed that law? Is it the
That's-
people, the court? Who?
In Canada, it's a national law, right? It's a federal law in Canada.
Wow.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
So for certain debilitating diseases or diseases, memory issues, cognitive issues, extreme pain, someone might want to make that decision. And that's allowable in Canada, but not in any U.S. jurisdiction.
Because I saw the Kaiser team was with you,
Yeah.
and they walk you through the whole process. Is it it's first hospice, and then, or do you work together all at the same time to prepare for the day?
So how did we do it? Well, Jack knew early on. He knew he had his first diagnosis 25 years. Then 19 years later, he had the second diagnosis. And as soon as he had that second diagnosis, he was like, that's it. I'm not going to make it.
And that was 2014, right?
2013.
2013.
2013.
Okay, and
And
he
he
passed in 2019.
Okay. And
Okay.
he was just like, that's it. I'm not going to do this. I need access to this law. It wasn't available yet, right? So he was already looking at Switzerland. So he had written Switzerland, was ready, was okayed, he was ready to go. All it took was just flying out there and deciding upon the date. But during that time, the law passed, and Kaiser said, because he had asked Kaiser, and they're like, no, you don't qualify yet. You're still too healthy. But once he entered hospice, so it was pretty much that day that Brad came over, I did call hospice, and Jack said, I want the meds now. I want to decide. So.
And your
They
mother must have had a part of spiritually preparing you because of her history and you growing up with her in the ICU. And did that help you to be open to what Jack was discussing, or?
Well, it was interesting. I grew up in a medical family, and my mom would come home because she worked during the AIDS crisis, and she would come home at the dinner table and say, you guys got to be careful out there. You know what I mean? And we were like, okay, Mom. We got to be careful. So I just grew up hearing everything, knowing everything, going to the hospitals with my mom, picking up her paycheck because, they didn't have direct deposit back then. So yeah, I think I was just open to understanding that. And I did have elderly grandparents who lived with us. And they passed at some point. So yeah, I understood from an early age what that was about. I was open to that.
I'm sure we have some hospice people in the audience. Awesome. Do we have any thoughts on, would you like to share anything on, do you have a question or relate any of your experiences? Would you say?
I don't have much to say, but being I've been a hospice worker for about 15 years, and it's beautiful to see it portrayed this way. You know, I go in at certain moments, and I'm in that moment, and so it was really, really touching to see, you know, just these sweet friendship moments and just these sweet little intimate moments that I only get to capture a little bit of. And so I was really grateful to watch that.
Right. Was that the point? What he's sitting here now?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? I mean, we know kind of what Jack would think since we all think we're best friends with him. But I'm just saying now, Brad, when you sit here, it was bigger than you. It was way more profound than you were thinking, most likely, right? Or-
Yeah, I mean, he wanted to leave a legacy, and he always wanted to be a celebrity and a star on stage. And I mean, we're about halfway through our festival run. It looks like we're up to about 35 festivals now of all different sizes, and it's just amazing to see him, up there dancing and clowning around and confiding in everybody in these moments. Like, who gets a chance to talk to somebody 20 minutes before they die, right? And just confront that in another human being. And we have the added bonus of it being Jack, right? Because he's just so open and, he's got character, right? And so it's wonderful to, I mean, it's like Jen said at the end, one of the last scenes, the decision was a gift, and his decision to want his story to be told, it was very intentionally his wish. That's also a gift, because I mean, look, all you guys in the audience, you probably have had a long day of watching films, but I mean, I feel really grateful that you had a chance to meet Jack. It's like, it's so fundamental. I mean, you might think, oh, it's about filmmaking, or it's about the industry of it, or, red carpets, or just, oh, isn't that cool, or whatever. But it's just as simple as wanting to tell a story about your close friend and wanting people to know somebody's story, and he wanting to share his story. And the fact that it actually happened, and you guys are all here and got to meet Jack and get a little flavor of what his life was like is incredible.
Because your approval was important to him, it seemed. He kept asking, "Are you okay with this? Are you?" In those FaceTime calls, It was beautiful, actually.
I mean, I never thought it. Does it come off that he wanted my approval? I don't know. I mean, it was just he just trusted me. Like, that was never even like, that's not his personality in a sense. Like, he just was generous. And I mean, my favorite story is that, like, even towards the end, he would call me regularly, right? Like almost every day, just to check in, see how I'm doing. And I was like, wow, like, this guy's dying, but he's checking to see how I'm doing on a regular basis. How lucky I am to have a good friend like that. Like, that's, why did he choose me? And then I only discover afterwards that he had like a long list of people that he spent his day calling and making sure that they were okay. And that was like what he did. Like, that's how he lived, so he's just checking on all y'all now.
It's there, right. I mean,
It's true. He would call everybody, and everybody was truly his best friend, right? Like, he would do this, and I would be at work. that's where I would
Jen
be.
would be
I would be at work all
holding
day, all
everything
night.
together, and that's what he would be doing.
Yeah.
there must be a comfort in watching the film and being with him for that hour and a half again. Is that true or not?
Yeah,
Do you miss him while you're?
Yeah. It's people say, "Oh, I'm sorry for your loss," and I think I say thank you, but it's like any other legacy, where he's a big chunk of him still up there, like, right. He comes alive at each screening, and and just so you guys know, like, we don't know where this film will be distributed. Right? It won't probably make it to mainstream distribution. We'll do what's called an impact campaign. And we're working with Empowered Endings and Dr. Donnie and Bob and Liz Uslander, who are like, San Diego is an amazing hub of innovation and, you know, concern about how to do this. Dr. Bob, who's part of the same practice, I guess he's the founder of the practice. He has participated in something like 600 deaths. I mean, when he came to the screening in the middle of last year, it was up to 500. So it's probably, I don't know how many he does, but it's something like that. I mean, just being a witness and helping someone like 500 or 600 people through that is mind-boggling. So one of the reasons, besides just sharing the film with this community, that I really wanted to be here is because I got a chance to meet Dr. Donnie and other people from Empowered Endings and spend time with Bob and Liz, because we're going to use the film for education. We've screened at to first-year medical students who were wowed and, you know, sort of recalibrated their thinking about how to take a patient's full story. We have screened, you know, with doula groups, with individuals are contacting us now who have loved ones who are terminal and saying, well, how can I see this? And I'm like, I don't know yet. Here's a link, watch it. And they write these notes and that are unbelievable and so rewarding. And that's why Jack wanted it done. And that's what we're going to try to do with a distribution campaign, like an impact campaign, to have this be a form of medicine, basically.
That this moment can be peaceful, it can be freeing, it can be in love.
It can be totally beautiful. I mean, you know, you don't think about it I didn't think about that during the process. You're just knee deep in it, right? But if a death can be beautiful, if a death can be planned, if it could be done this way, I mean, I couldn't see it any other way at this point. And it was exactly how he would have wanted it, and it turned out exactly as he wished. And I think that is allowed him to go more peacefully and more easily, which is what he wanted. So, yeah.
Yes, when my father just passed, and you know, the hospice nurse said, you have to, they've been together 62 years, you have to give him permission to go. Is that something that's common, do you, in your history?
Yeah, I do think that that's important. I find that, especially once somebody gets close and in the moments leading up to it, that permission is very valuable. And, you know, I do see people oftentimes when somebody gives them permission and, you know, there's a sense that they know their loved ones are going to be okay, or, you know, going to be able to carry on. And that does give them permission to go. And it can be a very beautiful moment. You know, I try to create that space. I think that, you know, it's one of the things you mentioned. One of the things we're trying to do is sort of reimagine what, you know, the dying process is and the impact physicians can have, and our, you know, involvement and intimacy with that vision. I mean, like, you know, tomorrow morning I'm going to be with somebody as they take the medication and transition, and it's a really sacred space. You know, it never is not. And like, that's one of the things I really like love about, I feel so lucky to have found this position. It's so affirming, and it's so in such an important moment that being able to like support the family and shape it, you know, as the physician in the role, but then also like a counselor and just creating a space that's safe and nourishing and powerful is, I feel so lucky to be part of that. And I, you know, again, just thanks for making this film, 'cause it's so perfectly, I think, captured what leads up to it and how that can be, you know, such a healing space.
I mean, it's, wow, Brad, look what everyone's done up here, huh? Do we have any more questions back there?
My name's Eric. I'm a nurse practitioner with palliative care. And I thought the film was amazing. I think you are doing such a important thing, bringing the conversation, because we're in such a death avoidant, death phobic time. And, I noticed that your language is very careful. Now we don't say physician-assisted suicide anymore. We're always trying to rehabilitate. I think things like Jimmy Carter going on to hospice is so helpful to have these conversations. I have the conversation 5-7 times a day with people, trying to get them to visualize what they think their death should be. And there's 95-year-olds saying, I'm never signing a DNR, I'm going down swinging. And there's other people who've lived well and they've decided that, that they're okay. I hope that, that the film is, have you guys found that the film is being well received and the conversations are happening? I guess that's one question. My second question would be, did anybody in your circle who was vehemently against him choosing a date and a time, have any of them, shifted how they think about death?
The first question was, what was the first question?
How are you finding the conversation as you're going to these screenings?
The screenings have been incredible. I mean, there's always, I heard you guys laughing, which is Ed maybe crying. And, sometimes there's a whole, wave of applause when the DNA test results come in. So I know people are wrapped up in it, and I know, and I'm getting emails from people that have watched it, and it's just off the charts of what it means to them. It wasn't like you can even set out to do that, but there's just, getting to the ethos of a documentarian, just to witness something powerful and to be able to capture it. Jack did it. I just had to do a competent job of capturing it and telling the story. And then what was the second
The
one?
second question was, did Jack change the opinion,
Oh,
his friend's opinion?
We were just last week and we screened, and Lemon was up here with us, and someone asked him that, did he change his mind? He didn't really quite budge very much.
He said this is what he said. He said what he came to realize with the help of his wife was that it was no longer at some point about Jack. It was about supporting me at that moment, and that he understood that Jack had made his choice and he was going to have to be okay with that, but then just get behind me. Which was true and incredible, because at that point I ended up living with Lemon and his wife right after Jack died, because they wouldn't let me do anything else. They wouldn't let me live alone. I was like, I'm fine. No, you're not going to live alone. I'm fine. But he did continue to say that he, for his own choice, not make that choice. He would choose differently.
I think what's critical here is that anybody can have their opinion about what they would do for themselves, but, don't we get to choose for ourselves how we write this final chapter of our life? There's so much, we wave this flag of freedom in the United States, but you don't have that freedom to do that, to end your suffering if you know you're going to die. And it's illegal. This is illegal outlaw behavior in 40 states.
Yeah, I was going to ask, in the screenings, are there different opinions, like if you're in the Midwest or if you're in California or New York?
No, that's the strange thing. Maybe it's self-selecting because certain people come to film festivals or whatever, but it's unanimous. It's so many people are scratching, in conversations afterwards and gatherings or in the, the lobby, they're scratching, why is this not possible? Why can't we? Because we went to screenings in Florida and Ohio and Utah and other places, and this is so wrong. We should be able to have that choice. And so it's a kind of, it's like many of our other laws, right? Where there are factions that have, exert their power to prohibit the public from doing things that they want to do and that make good common sense for for ideological reasons or for profit or for whatever it is. And that's the case. So in terms of how people have responded, they're wowed. They love Jack. It's amazing to see that. They have fun watching the movie. And then they think, maybe I need to make a plan.
Did you guys notice he said certain types of people go to film festivals?
That's you guys.
What kind of people are we? I just,
The best kind.
who else has a question? Come on, there's got to be someone with a question, right? You again, sir. It's the pug.
I was really struck by what you were saying about getting permission, because I think that is the hardest thing, because our natural tendency is to have people. My dad's turning 90 this year, and I just find myself, and my mother's passed away. You always find yourself saying, "Oh, you're gonna live a lot longer. Don't worry about dying. Don't, your health is good." So it's, and then even in the movie, even you had to go on record as not being real in favor of him doing this.
Right.
So it seems like a lot of people had that opinion. They had to be on record, as they didn't get permission yet, but they wanted to be on record at that. So I think that's an amazing thing. Is getting, you did such a beautiful job, because you kept it real private. I mean, I don't know what your conversations were that weren't in the movie, but I mean, you never told him you didn't want him to do it throughout the whole movie, and that was very beautiful. So I think that's amazing how how challenging that part is.
Any more questions here? Well, I'd like to wrap it up with, what are our thoughts now? I'd love everyone right now to give us an ending thought of the lasting change Jack has had. I mean, hopefully the industry and the world will open up to his way of thinking, or what do you think, Brad, now that you've been through this?
I mean, I kind of said it, just, more of this, like it's okay for it to find one audience after the next, and it'll find the right people somehow, right? And hope, it's already tens of thousands, I don't know how many, but it'll continue to grow. I already know that's the case. And I just, whatever good it can do in terms of reaching people that want to watch and experience a story like this, we'll continue to make sure it happens.
And it's possible that we can be like Jack Hunt, Doctor, right?
Yeah, I just, I think, first of all, I think highlighting what a gift that was. It's because it's okay that it's not easy, and it doesn't sit well, and you're losing somebody that's such a part of you, that is such a part of your life, that it just feels off. It just doesn't quite sit right. But to still, even with that feeling, to support, document, and facilitate, it's such a gift. I don't think you can quite imagine it, but the number of times I've seen it, it's so empowering to the patient to have their family and their loved ones support them, because it's scary, and the thought that you might not have that is a real possibility. And then I think just imparting, for everybody, just take heed to really, value these moments, value the important moments in your life, value the moments you have with those you love, and, the times in your life that you really look around and you go, oh yeah, this is one of those moments. That's a good time. That's really, why I'm here. Really take, notice of those moments and enjoy them. They're fleeting, and they're very important, and they carry on with other people. So enjoy them.
I'll sneak one other quick thought in, and that is that what Jack said, that he just told people that, put it this way, none of us are assured another day. And the fact that he recognized how soon his time was and told all the people around him that he loved them, just expressing that's something to remember and to adopt.
So Jack in the film says, I just want my wife to be happy. And I'm actually really happy because he gave me this gift of what he called a second life. He told me he wanted me to have a second life because I spent, a good amount of time with him, 25 years or so. So I've moved on. I'm engaged, and I'm just here. I love that he gave me this gift that we shared together with our family, with our friends, and it's really helped me to move on. And I'm thankful for that, but I'm thankful for all of you to be here because this is what he wanted. He wanted everyone to know the story so that they could also make decisions for themselves, for their future. And just like Dr. Donnie said, live their lives fully, because he really did that. Somehow he understood that in his life. And he really, really made sure to tell every friend of ours that he wanted me to move on. And I have, but I've also kept him dear and close to me, and I think of him daily. And I love seeing him on screen. It makes me laugh, it makes me cry, and it brings me joy because underneath everything is really his love for me, his friends, his family, and really for everyone he met. He just was that kind of charismatic person. So thank you so much for sharing this moment with us.
Jack did a good job on his plan. I know I went through with my husband. Jack did a plan for his death. My husband, a year ago, was in the hospital, and we have to make that decision at the last minute for hospice. So I think now I realize after all that Jack did and my husband passed, I think Jack did a good job because he prepared and he had everybody, his close friends, family, and he all the days before he passed, we got everybody, the family, close family. It was hard to watch him, and I know he had this plan about a year ago, calling me all the time that he wants to go to Switzerland, to UK, and get this done. And I told him at that time, wait for Kaiser. Kaiser is on the way to approve that. So he did, but every time he got a new symptoms, signs that he noticed, he calls me, Mom, I'm having a seizure. And it's hard because Jennifer and Jack married for what, 25, over 25 years. So I think that's it.
All right, one more time. Jack has a plan. Let's give it up.